Oh, how exciting. All right. So those of you who've been with us for a couple of minutes have had a little sneak peek into the 100% professional fine oiled machine we have going here this morning to bring you some news from Haiti. So thank you so much for joining us. And a huge thanks to both Mabel and Samantha for making time to be here, because we know how busy you are and just so appreciate you making us a priority here at Women's Empowerment International. And thank you to our guests, our attendees for being here. We're really excited to bring you this information this morning. It feels like really important and urgent information after so much has happened in Haiti this last year. And we're going to hear a lot more about that from our guests. But my own feeling, and I'm sure this is shared among many of you, is that the news coverage is just not nearly sufficient here in this country to really understand the events that have taken place there. And we sort of get a rush of coverage right around the earthquakes or the political unrest or the assassination, and then it just fades like the next day, or seems to. So we're looking forward to sharing some of that with you and having you meet our partners in person here. And many of you know that Fonkoze has been a partner of Women's Empowerment since 2016. And Christy Hendrickson's going to tell you a little bit more about that partnership, but it's an incredible team of women. And I think there's some men in there, but we always work with the women, and they're all rock stars and could be leading any agency, probably leading countries, and they choose to do this work. And we're just always so blown away by everything that they do. And so we're really, really thrilled to have them here with us. So I now am happy to introduce Christy. We're going to be together for 45 minutes here this morning. And after Christy shares information with you, you'll hear from Mabel and I believe her colleague Shelby as well. And then we're going to save some time at the end, maybe 15 minutes or so, for Q&A with you. So please, as you're learning and hearing the information this morning, think about questions you'd like to ask, and you can just go ahead and throw those into the chat, and then we'll get to those toward the end. So now I would like to introduce Christy. Bear with me here for a second. Christy Hendrickson is the Women's Empowerment Liaison to the We Fonkoze partnership, and has been since the very beginning. Christy is a member of WE's board of directors and has filled that role since when, Christy? Quite a while.
2016. I came on board right at the same time as I became liaison.
Oh, right. And same time that I joined. So Christy has been to Haiti, visited with the partners. She's the person within our organization who's in the closest touch with Fonkoze. And I am happy to now turn it over to Christy to share some insights from her experience.
Well, thank you, Paige. And as Paige mentioned, as a liaison, one of my roles is to be the contact person between our partner and to get regular progress reports from them, and to be kept abreast of any changes or ongoing concerns in the partnership. So one of the other main things we always try to do is do a site visit to our partners to really see how on the ground, how things are working. And so myself, and along with 5 other members of we, in January of 2018, had the honor of going to Haiti and actually meeting some of these women. And then the very first slide that she just had on, that was one of the Chays that we met there, Leon, who, there you go. And she was just such an impressive woman. She had 6 children, Her oldest was a nursing student at that time at the university. And here in this picture, she's holding up a manual that shows the training manual that they use to teach their solidarity groups the information that they have been taught on health and nutrition. So this was one that was done on breastfeeding. And so because some of the women do not read, their materials are all very visual based, so that they don't require reading to really understand what's being taught. So anyway, then on this trip, we not only visited the Chase, but we also visited a couple solidarity groups. And this picture on the right, I believe, looks like a woman who probably not only is a Che, but is a business development client. So they are these women are part of the microfinance programs and can receive larger loans. So in addition to the Chase, we also traveled up to the Mirabelais and the Central area, where we saw a health training session of 13 Chase on the importance of breastfeeding. And then these Chase then go back into their community to pass on that information to their the rest of their solidarity group. We also met with Gautier Dudon, who's the founder and director of their CLM program for the ultra poor, who met with us and took us to, we also met with 5 of those clients. Then we also met with the very top leadership of Fonkoze, including Carine, Roenen, the executive director, and with Wesley Elise, who was at the time was the health nutrition coordinator, but is now the head of the Boutik Sante program. And then the other important person we met there was Mabel Valdivia, who had just recently taken on the position of the new executive directorship of Fonkoze USA. So we met Mabel. We actually helped her celebrate her birthday there. And so overall, it was just a pretty amazing experience. We were so impressed with all the leadership. As Paige said, we felt like some of these women, they could have run the country. They were just so educated and just so impressed by all of their skills and talents. So this was the meeting where they're being taught, the Chase were being taught about the breastfeeding. But anyway, so at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mabel Valdivia.
Christy, thank you so much for that wonderful recap of our Boutik Sante program as seen through your eyes on your visit in 2016. And Paige, thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak to your friends, your supporters, and obviously for the long-term partnership that we've been able to forge with Women's Empowerment. It's really, I think it's very serendipitous in the fact that Fonkoze's work really is empowering to women, and the fact that your name is Women's Empowerment, I think just kind of goes together. So it's really nice to be here with you all today. I know Natalie Park did a similar session with you guys back in April this year. Natalie has moved on she got poached from us by the US government, but she is the working on the Haiti Bureau out of USAID. So tomorrow, she will actually be speaking to several individuals, including Fonkoze's, who will be discussing some policy issues related to Haiti. So it's kind of nice to have her an advocate of Fonkoze on the other side. We miss her, but on this call, we have Samantha Gonzalez, who is the new Grants and Foundation Relations Manager at Fonkoze USA, and will be Women's Empowerment's new contact in our office. And Shelby Abbott is also from our office. She is new too. She is our program associate. So from time to time, you may hear from her as she collects data and stories and information about our work to share it with our partners and our supporters. And so I wanted to have an opportunity for them to be on this call and kind of get familiar with you and vice versa. That said, let me go ahead and share my screen. Can you guys see me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you see what I'm doing? Okay, because I've been working on 2 screens and things are a little crazy. Anyway, so here, I'm sure that you're familiar with Fonkoze's mission, which is a family of organizations that work together to provide financial and non-financial services to women, to the Haitian people, primarily women, and to help the families get out of poverty. And I'm going to just kind of give a little background on us. The organizations that make up Fonkoze are Fonkoze USA, the bank, which is SFF, and the foundation, which is the one that runs the Boutik Sante program in partnership with SFF. 2 points to note that happened this year with both the bank and the foundation. One is that SFF became a legitimately regulated entity by the Central Bank of Haiti, which is actually pretty exciting. We've been waiting for that legislation to go through for 10 years, and it actually happened this year despite all of the chaos in country. And what that means is that the bank is now not only the entry requirement into the bank is not that you have a savings account and then you can access a loan, but now we're able to provide a lot more different financial products to clients, both in country and people who live abroad, to be able to support their families. So it's really an exciting time for SFF and for the entire family, because we're growing in a way that I think when we were first founded, over 25 years ago, people never thought that a bank serving poor rural folks was actually going to be at the place where it is now. So really exciting that happened this year, and we're thrilled. We're actually the only microfinance institution to have received a license, and we are the largest microfinance institution, Haitian-based, Haitian-founded throughout the country. This is a map, I think Natalie probably shared with you before, about where we are in Haiti. We have 45 branches now, and we have 2,000 credit centers. And this is the region of the country where we had the earthquake earlier this year, and also the tropical storm. And so it has been a very interesting the last few months. And then in Jacmel, I think, Christy, which is where we were when we went in 2017 or 2018. It was 2018 we traveled
January
together,
2018.
right? 2018. Jacmel, the road from Port-au-Prince to Jacmel actually has been really right here. Has been blocked by pretty heavily armed gangs in the last few months. And so I'll talk about this later. Product and being able to reach our clients in those areas has been challenging. But as you can tell, there is basically not a place that you'll go in Haiti where you won't be able to find a Fonkoze branch or a client center. So we are really everywhere. By and large. And then the services that SFF provides are loans, savings account, money transfer services, currency exchange, payroll processing. We have been a payroll processor for organizations like the World Food Program and several other large international entities for quite some time. But the thing that really kind of identifies us is the loans that we provide to micro entrepreneurs through group lending, individual loans, and so on and so forth. And then the foundation is the one that provides the non-financial services, focusing on health, education, poverty alleviation, and the Boutik Sante program being the one that fits very nicely in the health services portion of that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Haiti crisis. It's been a very difficult year for us, if I'm perfectly honest. Starting with the fact that 2020 We thought, oh, Haiti, it's going to be kind of okay. Haiti has been largely spared by the COVID-19 pandemic. The country really essentially shut down for several months. No international travel was accepted from individuals either arriving or leaving the country. And so because of the tight-knit nature of communities, COVID-19 spread wasn't thankfully what people expected, because obviously the healthcare system there is very fragile and wouldn't be able to take the amount of cases that we have seen in other countries, both here in the United States and in the developing world. But then 2021 dawned, and in July, the president of the country was assassinated. That created a power vacuum that absolutely has resulted in some very difficult conditions for the people generally. With the death of the president, the instability in government, pretty heavily armed gangs have basically taken over different parts of the country and have created basically their own laws. For Fonkoze, what that has meant is that we have had to really readjust how we operate in many ways after the assassination of the president, and especially in the northern part of the country where the president was from. We sadly lost one of our staff members from one of the branches in Cap Haitian. We had to close branches early that day, and he was leaving. There was a mass of people, and he was trying to get through. They wouldn't let him get through, and he was shot by the group of people that were there. And we've had folks being kidnapped by gangs depending on the road that they're on. Fonkoze does not negotiate with kidnappers, but we do provide PTSD counseling and support for the families post-release, and all of our staff have thankfully been released in the instance that there was a kidnapping. So it's a very stressful time for our staff and for our clients. And I say that make the distinctions because many times we forget that Fonkoze is not an international entity that is bringing outsiders into the country. These are people that live and work in these communities who are Haitian, and many of them do not have an alternative to leave or to choose to move someplace else. This is where they're from, and this is where they're staying. And it's been, for us to support our colleagues, it's been a very heartbreaking year in many ways, because there's little for us to do, and we feel very much like our hands are tied in terms of what it is that we can provide, other than, we're here for you, there's funding for these programs and that sort of thing. But yesterday, I had a conversation with Mary Claire, who is the Chief Administrative Officer at SFF. And when the earthquake happened, Fonkoze USA, with the help of so many supporters like yourselves, was able to raise over $600,000 for the response. And part of that response money was used obviously for immediate needs of hygiene kits for clients in the area, including staff members, but we also provided a cash payment to our staff members who lived in the earthquake zone and who had, really been affected, lost homes, lost other livelihoods. And that was seen by the staff members, Mary Claire was sharing with me, as something so deeply appreciated. Like, they felt like they were really important to the rest of the family, that it just wasn't that they worked for Fonkoze, but that Fonkoze really, really saw them beyond just being their employees. And that's something that I always want to share with folks, because it's like, again, we're not hiring external people to come into Haiti to work, but these are Haitians who are working for other Haitians who also are experiencing all of the things that our clients are experiencing. And as much as we can support them as well is really important for the mission of our work. So then if it weren't enough that an earthquake and a tropical storm happens within 72 hours of each other, we have had in the last few weeks extreme fuel shortages because of these gangs that are controlling different parts of the country. And what has that meant? It has meant that Fonkoze has to purchase fuel at high cost, so barrels of fuel, diesel, and keep it on property to be used for motor vehicles, to be used for generators, because what happens? Fuel is not available, and so electricity is not being distributed appropriately. So there are rolling blackouts throughout the country. And so in order to keep branches open and to serve clients, we have to have this fuel available. This week, fuel prices have skyrocketed in Haiti. It used to be 187 gourds a gallon, which is about $1.87, which, you know, relatively affordable, although it's highly subsidized. It is now $3.50 or 350 gourds to be able to purchase 1 gallon of diesel fuel by anyone on the regular market if they can get it. And so this presents a problem and a challenge, not just for Fonkoze to deliver services, but for our clients, right? Because guess who gets to pay, bears the brunt of that? It's the people that we're trying to serve and to work with, because they're the ones that then can't get their products to market. They're the ones that can't travel on the bus to go and purchase what they need to bring it back, and so on and so forth. And so it is a very challenging time for our clients and for Fonkoze. We are trying to do best we can to kind of mitigate this. We don't know how long these kinds of shortages and price gouging are going to continue. And so late last month, we had a donor provide about $30,000 for us to purchase solar powered motorbikes that are available in Haiti. So we purchased those so that our staff could use those to travel to the rural areas to be able to visit clients and conduct monitoring. I think, Christy, you probably read in the report that we just sent last month that we had not been able to travel to the south for several weeks due to monitoring because of the roads and because of the fuel shortages. And with these, with the ability to have these motorbikes, of course, this is a pilot, by the way, we would be able to do that. And then for 2022, we are going to launch a campaign to provide solar panels for all of our branches and to the headquarters office to just be able to continue to be more efficient in providing services to our clients. It would be nice to say, oh, we're trying to go green, which is great, right? But the reality is that we can't depend on fossil fuels because in the end, it's not going to be able to help us to continue to serve the people that need us the most. So that's kind of a very broad but pretty, I think, full picture of what the situation on the ground is. And Dr. Elize is our new director for Boutik Sante. Florence, who for a long time was a director, resigned last year, and Dr. Elize, who's been her assistant, has been able to take on that position. So we're excited about that. And so let me just go next to so I'll talk a little bit about the Boutik Sante specifically. And I think most of you know that community health entrepreneurs are what CHAYS, that's what CHAYS stand for. These are women that have been identified through our lending program who kind of are leaders. And so they get selected or asked if they would like to take on this additional activity. And so they do. And so they deliver not only providing health products in their community, but they're also conducting health screening and deliver health education, which I think has been really important to the communities where they live, and also gives women a sense of being seen, of being recognized within their community as a woman who has knowledge and can assist those who who need health or direct them to the place where they should be able to get it. So to date, we've trained 1,896 CHEs, and that means that 4.2 million people have had access to basic health services through the communities where we're serving. And in 2021, we had more than 45,000 participants take at least one training on health, nutrition, or a hygiene topic. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. And we've expanded our activities from, inception to 38 branches. So we're not in all of our branches yet. And then we are in 10 departments throughout Haiti. The goal is to reach all of those departments. I think the fact that we had so many challenges this latter part of the year has limited our ability for expansion. And we also have had obviously challenges with distribution, at being able to access products and so on and so forth. And like I said, so product shortages have been a real issue because we have not been able to procure some things due to the ability to move things around in the country. The CHEs that live in the earthquake zone were really deeply affected. Many of them lost all of their businesses. And so as part of our response to the earthquake, we did one-on-one assessments of every client that we had and went through and discussed, like, what is it they need? Do they need a recapitalization of their loans? Do they need more time? Do they need a loan restructure? And so for the CHEs, by and large, they did a recapitalization. So they did a top off so that they could recoup all of their product at a much lower rate so that they could restart their businesses. And then again, just the ability to be able to access parts of the country. We have not been able to return to the earthquake zone for some time because of the issues with transportation and the gangs kind of blocking those roads. And the reality is that many of the international organizations that were in Haiti initially after the earthquake are all gone. And so the reconstruction really has fallen on the shoulders of the Haitian population and on the government. And of course, with the government having the issues that it has, the reconstruction and the rehabilitation is very slow. We are looking at what happens next in reconstruction, though, in the earthquake zone, and how do people really build, I don't want to use this phrase, but really there isn't a better one. How do people build back better? Because people are not going to move away from where they are. That's their homes, their communities, their families are there, but how do we help them? I'm sorry, my dog is, how do we help them? How do we help our clients build homes that are going to be resistant to future shocks, whether they be earthquakes or hurricanes or tropical storms? Because what typically happens is that they go back to whatever structure that they had, do some patching up, and hope that they can survive whatever happens next. And so really looking at the ability to provide our clients with something that allows them to do some better home rehabilitation. And so the idea of having SFF have a license now, we're really looking at what other loan products we can provide that help our clients achieve this, whether it be a housing loan or something like that, which is not atypical, I think, for our clients, obviously, in Haiti. And that's that. But Chrissy, you had sent me some questions that you thought that you would like for me to touch on. And from the report that we sent you, let me stop sharing so I can look at this appropriately. Okay. And I don't know if you wanted me to talk about that now, or do you want to have some questions and then we can talk about that per page?
I think that we'd love to open it up to our guests if people who've been listening have questions. using the chat function here. We'd love to have you all pose any questions that you might have, which I can, then see and read out to Mabel. We've already had, Christy, does that work with you? Or were there questions that you were hoping?
That's fine. Why don't you, I'd love to have any questions from any of our guests first, and then if there's space in between, maybe Mabel can address. The questions I had raised were just after reading the report, the progress report. There was, especially the gender program, I was very curious to hear what they were doing there for her to touch a little bit more on.
Great. One question that we have received was just to maybe talk a little bit more about the motorbikes. That's such a fantastic development, and a very insightful supporter provided that. And so the question was around how to keep those folks safe. And I know that the roads are perilous, and are those people they're going to check on clients, but are they also involved in the delivery of product, or are there concerns around their well-being?
So great question. And motorbikes, we usually use them for people who are just going to check on clients. And Fonkoze has developed just such to me, because I don't live in that world every day, it's just like fascinating. Yeah. a little bit like Cloak and Dagger, like, okay, this is the road from this time to this time. You can do this from this on these days. It has to be like this. And so they never take the same road twice. They never have a pattern, because that makes them vulnerable to anything and everything. And so maybe they go on a Wednesday, maybe they go on a Friday, maybe they go on a Saturday. It depends on the day. But the community always knows, because part of what we've done because of COVID is provide flip phones to people who may not have them in the regions. And that's how they're able to communicate with their credit officer, or with their in the case of CLM, with their CLM case managers. But safety is a huge concern. And so we definitely, kind of break that up. And then to deliver product, it's not carried by our guys on the motorbikes, but it'll be like in a car that'll go on a different day, just to keep things safe. And no one typically, especially if our credit officer happens to be a woman, I know it's a little bit gender, but it is what it is. They typically do not travel alone. In the case of the staff that was kidnapped, there were actually 3 of them traveling together in a car, and they were stopped on the road, and they were kept basically in a ditch for 3 days. And after 3 days and $50 a piece, they were all released. Wow. So it's not like, it depends, right? In Port-au-Prince, the price of kidnappers is much higher, but in rural areas, it tends to be a lot less, not any less scary, obviously. Wow. But that's the question. So the motorbikes are actually produced in Port-au-Prince, so they're actually able to be procured locally versus having to wait for them to come in from abroad and customs and all of that, because that's another whole set of challenges. Right. And so maintaining those motorbikes and being able to get spare parts and such, they're able to do that because they're already produced in Port-au-Prince.
That's so great to hear. And actually incredibly fascinating what you're describing about the need to not sort of regularize their routes and therefore keep it kind of secret so that safety is provided in that way. I'm getting questions via text, but you people there in the webinar, get some questions going here, because we're so lucky to have these folks here. We want to take advantage of it. You had mentioned, and you've shared with us updates around COVID, but I'm curious about, where that stands now, and, what the impact of COVID on folks in the island has looked like, as well as availability of vaccine and our CHAs and the Boutik Sante involved at all on that side.
So that's a really good question. And on Similarly, I think to other countries where we've heard that the government has kind of slowed down the request of vaccine delivery, I think it's the same situation that's been happening in Haiti.
Mhm.
Some of our staff who happen to be Haitian American are vaccinated and have come to the United States to get their vaccine. I think overall there's still a hesitancy towards vaccination. I'm not gonna, kind of surmise as to why. It just is. But that COVID is still kind of being present in the country. There are more cases. As there's been opening up and more travel, there's more of that. But there's a lot of things that kind of have slowed down the spread in Haiti. I don't, people surmise that, is it because it's a younger population? Is it because most people tend to be within communities, right? It's a less of a, I live 35 minutes away and I have to commute every day to this giant office building, where other people live 35 miles away and commute every day. Right now, it's like everyone that comes to this market is typically from this community, and we're all here together. So that kind of closeness is known.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things. Social distancing at our office in Port-au-Prince is still continuing. Face mask wearing is not something that folks really kind of took to. It's what they had to do if they had to do it, but it's not something that they really wanted to do. We have been ensuring that people get tested if they need to be, get time off, paid time off to recover from COVID if they have it. And I have not heard from the partners in Haiti about how many of their staff are vaccinated. And I think it's because they're not like requiring it. Obviously they encourage, but it's not a requirement at present.
Okay, interesting. We have a couple questions here. One from Ria Coleman, who's a past president of Women's Empowerment. And she has a really interesting question, which I'm sure you've explored, which is whether it's possible to continue training the CHEs via cell phone or smartphone if the physical visits are impossible. And I know the physical visits are also to visit with clients, loan clients, but sort of the usage of smartphones to keep in touch and to train.
Yeah, so really good question. I think one of the things that the foundation is exploring is utilizing tablets and technology to be able to do more of this stuff. I know that the education program in particular is using tablets for the adult literacy program, and that's a platform that is being built so that they can use that more effectively and reach more clients. I think culturally, the personal touch is just more conducive to what we do.
Right.
And for us, I think we Americans, we tend to be like, okay, we go on Zoom, we do our thing. We don't love it because some of us like to be more in touch with people, but it's not, terrible, and it makes the time more efficient. But in a culture where it takes a day to get to the market, you spend all day at market, you work and socialize at the same time, and it's different to be able to then transition to only a virtual platform to be able to train. And I think for the women that are in the training sessions with the nurses, which, by the way, since the Action program ended, we were only able to retain 18 nurses for training. That's also part of kind of their engagement with community, and for the other women to be able to also engage in that way and just kind of learn and share with one another. So I would love it if everyone was able to have kind of an iPad and be able to go through stuff on their own. But I think the group learning methodology is going to continue, both because it's just more culturally acceptable, and just more just more familiar to them.
Right. Well, and one of the things we see with our partners across the board also is there's that community support and connection element that all humans need, but women in particular, you know, this is how women work together and support each other best. So when you take that out of it, a lot is lost.
Yeah.
I think Christy wants to jump in, and then we have another question in the chat. Christy, why don't you go ahead?
Sort of on that same line, though, I'm just wondering, in terms of security and stuff, if I know they've been looking at digital payments and stuff, and especially in terms of carrying money back and forth and the safety of the people who go out in the communities, how successful have they been in doing digital like payments, you know, both on their loans and providing the women the money for their loans and stuff?
So definitely, we have worked with the Digicel to create like a money wallet situation where people are able to make those, you know, transfers and transactions virtually. Again, with just like the people going out into the communities, SFF like literally has been transferring money to branches and to communities in ways that like top secret, like they fly to the region sometimes with the money so that they can deliver it to the bank, and so on and so forth, which was one of the things that was happening during this time, because our branches were working on reduced hours and reduced days so that they would ensure that they had sufficient cash flow when people showed up and needed their money. And we're also only giving certain amounts of money. So you couldn't just come in and say, you know, I want $1,000 withdrawal today. You'd be limited to what the amount was during the day, because they've had people, not at Fonkoze, but they have literally had people go into a bank, like an individual went into the bank, took money out to pay their son's school fees, and the guy was kidnapped in the center of the schoolyard by the kidnappers because they knew that he had money. So the level of planning to be able to have that money be safe, and for the staff to be safe, and for the client to be safe, I mean, I don't even know the half of it, honestly. Even in talking with my colleagues, with Carine and Dominique, like they don't even tell the level of detail. They continue, Chrissy, was a great question. Like they continue to use mobile wallet, but again, like folks who are used to doing that physical transaction, the shift to that thing locally is different. Like they're willing to send money to their family member if they live in Port-au-Prince and they want to send money to their family member living in a different part of the country. They'll do it that way, like a Venmo situation, right? But to make their payments, they're a little bit more cautious about that. It's really interesting.
It is. That's very interesting. And interesting about the ways that technology, you know, can solve problems that are happening, but then you run up against cultural issues and it's not always a fix, you know, and creates other problems sometimes. So we do have, I think we have time for one more question, which comes from another past president of Women's Empowerment and actually our co-founder, Wynn Cox. And one of the things that many of us think about with Haiti is how life seems so much to be kind of management of one catastrophe to the next and one challenge to the next. And Wynn, who is an eternally hopeful and optimistic person, is asking if you expect the gang challenges, the product shortages, the transportation issues to improve. And obviously you don't have a crystal ball, but or do you sort of see that from what you know that those challenges may get worse, or is it just kind of an ongoing management thing?
So the optimist in me, right? This is just Mabel's silver lining. The optimist in me hopes that Haiti does become better, that Haiti lives up to the full potential that it is, right? That these people that are super hardworking, family oriented, a rich culture, are able to have the lives that they deserve. Like that's the optimist in me. There are a lot of geopolitical forces that I think prevent Haiti to be able to get to that place. But as it pertains to what we do every day and what our clients do every day, our colleagues told us, and this is a little bit like, to me, it just kind of just, I don't know, it's like a little bit heartbreaking in the sense that the earthquake happened and we were in the field doing assessments of our clients and their businesses. And they wanted to know, like, when they could start repaying loans and when they could just start to continue their lives to keep moving forward. And it's like, the rubble hasn't settled. You haven't swept it away. You haven't had time to kind of clean up that. But you're talking about how do you keep moving forward. And I think that people talk a lot about the resiliency in Haiti, and I struggle with that word because I feel like, yes, it's important to be resilient, but when you say someone is resilient, I feel like they're that way because they've always have to live under the umbrella of constant chaos. And I don't like using that. I feel like Haitians deserve an opportunity to not have to be resilient, right? Like, they should have the time and the space to say, I grieve the loss of my business. I grieve the loss of my family members. I grieve the loss of the, democracy of our country. And I have a voice and I want to see this change in this way. I don't know if that's going to happen because I don't have a crystal ball. But I can tell you that Fonkoze is going to be able to be there to support clients in whatever it is that they're going to be doing, finding innovative ways to deliver service, making sure that we're able to talk to community members and provide opportunities for women to do whatever it is that they want with their businesses today, tomorrow, in the next earthquake, in the next coup, in the next whatever happens next.
Right.
And that is our commitment to the Haitian people. And so for us to be able to do that, we need partners like yourselves. And so we're grateful for this partnership. And we hope that it will continue.
Well, thank you so much. I can't think of a more fitting way to wrap up here. I feel like we could all keep talking forever, but we want to respect the time we've told people. But thank you so much for all this insight and really the kind of beautiful sentiment that you've expressed that has brought reality and life there much more to life for me today, and I think for our guests. And we're just admire all of you and what you're doing there so much, and are just grateful for the chance to work with you. And some of the folks on our call today are supporters of Fonkoze in addition to women's empowerment and care deeply about Haiti and the Haitian people. So grateful to you. Thank you so much. And I do know that looking ahead, there are great hopes to be able to do another women's empowerment site visit to Haiti, hopefully next year. We'll see what life has in store, but site visits are such an important part of how women's empowerment executes its mission and stays close. So stay tuned on that one, everybody. So thank you, Mabel, and everybody, Christy, and all of you for joining us today. Hope you've gotten a lot out of this. I will be circulating the recording so others can benefit from all this great information. So stay well, and happy holidays.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays. And Paige, good luck on what's next.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.